Welcome. I'm Julie Bacon, and you're listening to the Mindset Coaching for Handlers podcast, a podcast for dog handlers who are on a mission to achieve big goals. Here I share lessons, insights, personal stories, and tools you can apply during your next show, trial, or test to help you strengthen your mental game and hopefully cue more consistently. Be sure to check out the show notes where you'll find details about the episodes, plus important links, including the link to the Dogged Planner and Workbook created just for handlers on a mission. So if you're ready to improve your competitive mindset, get out of your own way, and connect with your dog like never before, then it's time to get comfy, bring an open mind, and work your mindset. Hey there, and welcome back to the podcast. All right, today we are talking about confidence. Confidence actually can be developed. It can be learned. Confidence is not something that I think people just have or they don't have. I think people develop it over time, and it certainly is made up of skills that are learnable that then give us experience, and then through that experience, we gain confidence. At least I think that's how we think about it, right? We tend to gain confidence after doing something, not before doing something. And I think that's might be a surprise to some people, because I think people think that they need confidence before doing something, or they need to be good at something before embarking on it, or that confidence comes before the doing. And it's not. Confidence comes after the doing. So it is one of those things where you have to leap first and develop confidence later or as you go. And the other thing I want to say about confidence is I think there's this idea that confidence just is developed over time naturally. And I do think that is true to some extent. I would call that organic confidence, meaning you develop it organically or by doing. And an example I always give is, like my very first obedience trial, I showed up with like a dog and a leash and some treats, and I sat in a metal chair with my dog next to me and waited for my class. And through just doing and learning and watching other people, I learned that was probably not the best plan, that I needed like a soft crate and I needed other things and I needed not to arrive so early. And then, by just doing and just going to more trials and watching and observing, I got more confident with like how the whole thing worked, and I made better choices, and I made better choices for my dog. And that I kind of put in the organic category, because I wasn't necessarily setting out to get better, or I shouldn't say it that way, but I wasn't setting out to get more confident. I wasn't like working on it in the in-between times, right? I just was getting more confident by putting myself in trials and kind of figuring it out as I went. I wasn't actively, like we are here, thinking about my mindset and my plan on like a Tuesday afternoon and thinking about how I can make my experience better. I wasn't like trying to actively seek out skills. Okay. So I put organic in the category of it just happens that you just become more confident sometimes by doing certain things. The confidence we're going to talk about today is that you can learn, because confidence is more of a skill versus a trait. And the other thing we talk about a lot here is this concept of having a growth mindset, right? So we want to apply the growth mindset to the concept of confidence, because again, if it were a fixed trait or a fixed idea, then it would be one of the things you either have it or you don't. And it's not. It's a growth mindset thing where we know that when we put effort to it, we can improve. So I just want you to have that as sort of a level set as we go, because the good news is confidence isn't something that we are just born with. Sometimes you look at a little kid and you think, oh, they're so spunky, or, but truthfully, we get it by doing, and we can acquire skills that help us develop confidence faster. And what I want to use here also for an example, like if you're still not buying it, I want to use our dogs, right, for an example. Like we we know that we can train them in a way that gives them more confidence, right? We know that we can train them to an extent that they are cannot just do the skill with some like thinking. We can get them to a point where they can do the skill confidently, right? So if we can watch and observe that in our dogs, then it must be true of the two-legged mammals as well, right? So I just want you to think about that. If you're feeling not confident right now or low on confidence and you really want to like up your confidence, but you don't believe it's possible to learn it kind of in your off times or like in between trials, I'm hopefully going to convince you that it is. Okay. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to think about times or moments where you felt confident in other areas of your life. Like maybe you're really freaking good at your job. Or maybe you're retired and so you were really fucking good at your job, but think of something else you're really good at, and how did you develop that confidence? Were you a really great like if you make beautiful quilts, like did you just wake up one day and just start making beautiful quilts, or did you acquire the skills, then apply some practice, hone your skills more, more practice, and through that you got more confident at things, right? So as someone who does quilt, I can tell you I'm confident at some things because I've acquired some amount of skills, but there's some other things that I'm just really feel still out of my depth about. But I'm a lot further than I used to be, right? So I want you all to think about what are the places where you are confident in other, maybe non-dog areas of your life, and, break it down. How did you get confident? How did you develop that? And, was it probably a series of like skills and experience, or did you just like wake up a prodigy? Okay. And maybe you did. Maybe you woke up a prodigy and you're amazing at something, and that's fantastic. And if that's true, pick a different example, because I want you to choose something that you can really break down, because I want you to see that you've already done it. In some other area of your life, you've already developed confidence through a series of skills and experience. Okay. All right. So as we move on, I want you to also then commit to recognizing and celebrating the small wins along the way. Because as you go backwards to look at something you're confident in and how you got there, you will realize that it was maybe a bunch of smaller things that in the moment you weren't really noticing, but as you look back, you can really see how they added up. So in that way, as we consciously try to develop confidence, we have to realize that we need to acknowledge, celebrate even some of those small wins and the progress that we are making along the way. Because when we do that, we give ourselves confidence, right? When we give ourselves these little pats on the back, or just, write a couple words in our journal or put a star on a certain Saturday where we had a really great day, then we start to tell ourselves, I can do this. Like I'm getting somewhere. Like I'm making progress. I'm making progress. My dog's making progress. I'm becoming a better handler. We're becoming a better team. We are so not where we were in February. Like this is amazing. Like this is coming together. Because when we start to see that progress, we start to get a little bit motivated, a little bit, jazzed up, and we do start to build our confidence. I talk a lot about evidence, and I think, this is one of those ways that when we acquire the evidence and that shows us that we're getting better, we're getting the skills, that evidence starts to come together and it starts to look like confidence, right? We start to realize that, we're putting the pieces together. It's starting to come together. It's starting to feel like a real team. We're really starting to make that progress. Those skills that we've been working on for so long are coming together, and we're able to put them, to work in a trial. All right. So those small wins, even if you think someone else might not care, who cares? Like, what you're working on, where your focus is, and to celebrate those small wins are going to help you acquire that confidence even faster. Okay. on the flip side, we have to remember, and this is part of our growth mindset too, but we have to reframe any of those setbacks as feedback, as I say, or learning moments, or just inputs, just data inputs into our evidence of like, okay, still need to work on that, but I'm getting better. Maybe the mistake I made is a better mistake, that I made today than I would have made 6 months ago. And that's really what it's all about, right? We want to make better mistakes, smarter mistakes, mistakes that show that we're learning and we're pushing ourselves in new and better, different ways. And as we do that, we start to bounce back faster because we are standing on the shoulders of confidence. We are becoming more confident. And now when we make a mistake, we're like, oh, that's not the end of the world. Like, I know what to do with that. That's just feedback, right? I feel like our setbacks hit differently or hit harder when we're feeling a little vulnerable, right? When we're feeling less confident, when we're feeling, sometimes I call it more porous, right? Where the stuff gets in, more sensitive. When we're feeling those ways, right? Those setbacks now hit us deeper. And we take them more emotionally versus when we're feeling confident, those setbacks, we're able to kind of file them in the right place in our brains and take them as feedback and then rebound quicker. And that's what we want to get to. Okay. So if you keep even every weekend when you run, or even if you're in classes or whatever, just write down a small win, right? What was your small win of the week, of the weekend? Maybe whether you're new to trialing or, maybe you're on your 10th dog and, it's old hat, at the end of the weekend, write down a couple small wins. What was the big takeaway, the big win for the weekend? And again, it doesn't have to be the thing that, you put on Facebook so that everybody else goes ooh and ah. Maybe it's just the thing where you're like, you felt more confident that weekend, or you really stuck to your rituals, or, your dog really had a confident day or something. Who cares? This is your small win. But again, when we write them down, when we record them, when we give them the attention those wins deserve, they start to add up and we start to see the evidence of us improving, of us making progress. And that makes us feel more confident. Okay. All right. The next thing I want to talk to you about is some practical stuff that you can do, okay? So I'm going to give you a few different things that you can do. First of all, I'm going to say it, visualize. You thought I'd say meditation, but I didn't. Visualize, right? When we visualize and we think about not just our runs, but the whole day, the whole weekend, how we want the whole day to go, how we're going to handle our runs, how we're going to, maybe hold our shoulders up, how we're going to walk in our power, make sure our dogs are ready, stick to our rituals, walk to our rings. When we visualize the whole thing, not only our runs, not only those, from 30 seconds to 5 minutes, when we visualize the whole thing, we feel like we're a little more in control. We feel like we're setting the stage a little more. And when we run through that a few times, we do start to get more confident and more clear about how we want the day to unfold, about how we want those runs to unfold. And that clarity that we give ourselves by running through that, several times really helps cement it in our brain so that when the time comes to do it, we are able to act quicker, right? Without having to think about it so hard. And we are able to act with intention and we're more likely to be successful. I've explained a few times that, research shows that the things that we visualize get stored in our brains in the same way that memories do. And we know that memories are things that have already happened in the past, right? That's evidence, that's things that happen. So if we are visualizing and we are filing in those same places, we are actually telling our brains that it's already happened. And when we tell our brains that something's already happened with success, that helps boost our confidence because we're like, oh, I've already done it and I've already done it well and perfectly and beautiful. And we were like downright elegant and I can't wait to buy the photo, right? So we need to give that to ourselves and we are in control of that, right? We are fully in control of making time, even if it's a minute, 3 minutes, to visualize how we want everything to go. All right. The second thing I'll tell you is, positive affirmations. Positive affirmations are still around, have been around for a long time because they work. Starting statements with I am, having an affirmation that is I am confident. I can do this. My team is connected. Whatever, call them a mantra, call them an affirmation, call them a statement. But when you say to yourself, like, I am calm, prepared, and focused in the ring, and you repeat that, and then you start to feel that in your bones and you start to feel like what that would be like to really like, again, it's going a little bit back to visualization and you're tying that back to like how that would feel. Then again, your body starts to believe it. Your mind starts to say, ooh, that's a memory that's already happened because we've already played through this scenario multiple times. Okay. Affirmations really are powerful. That's why people talk about them so much, right? This is not just like some made up like trend of the year. This really does work. Okay. All right. The last thing I'll say is think about like how you can work like a confidence booster into your rituals. Okay. So, maybe like before you walk into the ring, you do a little deep breathing or some of this mental rehearsal, some of the visualization, the affirmation, when you're doing like the right before you go in the ring, maybe there is like a mantra or an affirmation you can say to yourself before the ring, or maybe before you go get your dog, you do run through a visualization. Work these little tricks, tips, reminders, whatever you want to call them, these little confidence boosters into your ritual and like slot them in, right? Just as you would, like I go get my dog and then I take them out to potty and then I bring them back up and I warm them up a little bit and you're making time for all of those things, then slot these confidence boosters into that. Right? Just like, for instance, the last thing, I've told you this before, the last thing I say to my dogs before we walk in the ring is I say, thanks for playing, right? Because like, thanks for playing agility, thanks for playing obedience, whatever, thanks for playing. Because it wasn't their idea. They didn't sign up for this. They'd just as soon be, on a hike or doing something else that they would rather do. So I always do that. Well, just like I can do that before I say that to them, I can say, we're an awesome team. We are an awesome team. Thanks for playing, right? So slot these things in, plan them out so they become just as habitual as the rest of your ritual. Okay? All right, I've got a couple more when we come back. Quick question. Do you ever wish you had more mindset help? Well, the Q membership was created just for that reason. Every month we pick a topic and then we have 4 lessons, which are kind of like these podcasts that we dive deeper into. And so if you are ready for more, you're ready for more mindset work, think about joining the Q membership. Annual members get a free coaching session, but you can also choose the monthly option as well. Go to theqcoach.com to learn more. Let's get back to the episode. Okay, this next one I love a lot, okay? It's this idea that you like take on like almost like a persona, all right? The example that I use is a real one. Beyonce, you may have heard of her, a singer, kind of successful. When she performs on stage, she very famously takes on the persona of Sasha Fierce. And it became public, and she even, I think, released an album called Sasha Fierce. But when she goes on stage, she is Sasha Fierce. And Sasha Fierce, in her body, in her being, is this, powerful, like, kind of other person. And it gives her confidence because she steps into that persona. She steps into everything that is Sasha Fierce. and she is brave to get on stage, right? She doesn't have stage fright anymore. She's a powerful singer. She's, embracing all of her femininity, all of her talents, everything that we know as Beyonce. But she thinks of Beyonce as like the person, right? The one probably with all the insecurities as normal humans have and all of that kind of stuff. But when she steps on stage, she is Sasha Fierce. And I borrowed Sasha Fierce, that idea, because to me, when I think of Sasha Fierce, now it evokes this whole concept. I borrowed that for my dog, Indy, when we were running agility. And I would be like, all right, sister, you are Sasha Fierce. And it just gave her kind of a vibe and me kind of a vibe. And when we would walk in the ring, we just embodied a team that was better than maybe we were. Okay. Right. But it's mindset, right? It's how we walk into the ring. And if I walk into the ring thinking I am Sasha Fierce of agility, I'm going to run with a lot more confidence, a lot more clarity. I'm going to be a lot more definite. I am definitely going to run to those blind crosses and I'm going to get there on time. And it just takes on a whole new vibe. Okay. So I really would love for you to find an identity. Maybe it's a superhero, maybe, I don't know, it's someone that you admire, maybe it's a performer, maybe it's an athlete, maybe it's someone maybe it's someone you don't know and will never meet. It doesn't matter. What matters is, what are the characteristics of a confident, successful, singer, athlete, what have you, whoever this is, superhero, what are the characteristics that you embody when you see yourself through that lens? And you borrow, if you will, that identity, that persona, and you embody the mindset of that persona, and you walk in and as that confident handler. And when we do that time and time again, I mean, let me tell you from my own experience of like borrowing Sasha Fierce, like it became kind of a habit. It became part of our ritual. And yeah, it made me, a half an inch taller when I walked in the ring and a half a step faster and better and all of that kind of stuff. Because then I start to embody that. And if I start to embody and run like a confident handler, well, pretty soon I'm having the experiences of a confident and successful handler, and it builds on itself, right? And it's fun also, by the way. It's not serious. It's not world peace. It lightens you up a little bit, but I'm telling you, you really need to try it. Gives you a little like pep in your step. Okay. So that for sure is homework today. Okay. I also really want you to think about, like we talked about mantras, we talked about sort of that like kind of last minute thing that you might say, but I also want you to really think about how you can work on your self-talk, like in the in-betweens, right? Like you might have like a short pithy something that you say, as you're walking into the ring or something, but just even as your practice on a random Tuesday, maybe you're sitting and meditating or listening to music, thinking about maybe like some longer sentences or something like, I'm a prepared, resilient, and skilled handler who trusts my dog and myself. Okay. It's too wordy, obviously, to do that right before you walk in the ring, but it's not too wordy to like sit with it. And maybe that's the thought you have before you do a guided meditation or something, right? And the more we say these things, the more we clean up our self-talk and go from saying like, oh my God, I always make these stupid mistakes, or I always choke in the finals, or I'm never going to figure this out. The more we clean that garbage up and sweep that out of our minds and replace it with good stuff, the faster our confidence will come. And the replacing of the self-talk is so important. And you've heard me talk about it before, but I'm going to talk about it again. We can't just say, don't think about pink elephants. Right? It doesn't work because what do you think? You're thinking about a pink elephant right now. I know you are. We have to replace it. Just like, and this is the example you've heard me use, new puppy, chewing on favorite shoe, you don't just take away a shoe and say bad puppy. The puppy needs to chew on something. You give them the thing that they're allowed to have, right? You give them the Benabone, okay? Or whatever. You say, thank you for my shoe. Here's a Benabone. This is a better choice. And you replace it. That's what we have to do. We have to replace those negative self-talks, especially those phrases or things that we say to ourselves that are on repeat. I don't care if you're the person who every time you drop your keys, you say, ugh, you're so stupid for dropping your keys. It's simple, but it's got to go. And the way that you do that is just by diffusing it or saying like, even smart handlers drop their keys. Sounds silly, but it's changing the whole vibe of the moment. Okay. And it might even get you to laugh, and it might get you to lighten up and like let go of the fact that like, yeah, big deal. Dropped keys. Who cares? This does not matter. All right. So working on that self-talk is going to be crucial. I can't imagine having a negative self-talk always running, but also being confident. Like it just doesn't go together for me. It's just incongruous. So that self-talk, to clean that up, is really going to help you get to that being that confident handler that we all want to be. And you know what? While we're at it, we're not going to be confident in every ring, every run all the time, right? We're going to be more confident in some rings than others, more confident in some venues, some locations, some environments than others. We go to a brand new, big open or national or invitational or something like that for the first time. It's not going to feel the same as it's going to feel the fifth time we go. Okay. Of course. But when we start to learn that like, hey, wait a minute, I need to go back to my mantras. I need to make sure I'm cleaning up my self-talk. I need to make sure I do some visualizing, spend some time breathing in my car, do my rituals, so on and so forth. The faster we can get back to being the Sasha Fierce or whomever that you want to embody. Okay. And then finally, last one, journal. Okay. Write some stuff down, whether you want to do like some short things, as we talked about earlier in this episode, of like, putting a star by a really great day, or just capturing a few words of a really good either lesson or practice session or trial or run or what have you. But like capture those moments so that you can go back, either celebrate them, see your progress, or, what have you. Okay. But also consider doing some longer form journaling where you are really working on your self-talk, to replace those thoughts, to, maybe you're just stream of consciousness writing how you want to feel, how you dream of feeling, like maybe you say a year from now, I'm going to feel like this. And in so doing, you're able to discover some of those mantras or some of those better thoughts that you want to be having, and you circle them, and then you pull them forward into your planner or onto a 3x5 card that serves as a reminder to you for the coming weekend. Okay. Our confidence is, yes, it is built in skills and experience, right? It is built in the going and the doing, but how we feel about ourselves and how we approach that run, that ring, that weekend is going to make all the difference. Okay. So I really want you to think about how you can, think of confidence as a skill. And by doing that, you'll work on it, right? Just like you're going to work on your healing footwork, or you're going to work on getting those blind crosses in, or you're going to work on cueing your dog earlier and earlier and earlier to give them the information they need when they need it. Okay. It's a skill. It can be worked on. Decide that you're going to work on it, right? Just by deciding you're going to work on it, it already starts to get better. Okay. Celebrate those small wins, create some great visualization, some great mantras, some great, words of wisdom for yourself so that you can start to replace that self-talk. And seriously, think of a great persona. I'm telling you, it is a freaking game changer. I was more successful as Sasha Fierce than anyone else I've ever been in my life, probably. Okay. So really give it a try. Okay. And I would love to know what what you have found in your life. Like, go back and do that exercise, right? Of like, where else are you confident and how did you get there? But I would love to know like how you've improved your confidence over the years, because I know you have, whether you're doing it on purpose or organically, like we talked about in the very beginning. It's happening. You are becoming more confident, and I know you will become more confident still. You've instilled confidence in your dogs. You can instill confidence in yourself. I know you can do it. I believe, okay? All right. And you know what I always say, no matter what you're up to this week with your dogs, I hope you have a fantastic time. Thanks so much for listening to the Mindset Coaching for Handlers podcast with me, Julie Bacon. I am so grateful for your precious time. Check out my Dogged Planner workbook and journal available on Amazon. Just search for Dogged Planner. I also offer monthly membership that's perfect for ongoing support of your awesome goals. Check out theqcoach.com for details, or just stop by and check out all the ways you can work on your mindset. And be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at theqcoach and let me know how it's going. Finally, please share, subscribe, and leave a review. This helps us podcasters tremendously. Plus, I know I get my best podcast recommendations from friends. Thanks, and have a great week with your dogs.